Hello everybody, welcome to Dialogues for Change. Life is not a void to be filled, it is a plenitude to be discovered. Today I would like to share with you some very beautiful insights on the horizon of pluralism as needed for any intercultural dialogue. It is thoughts by Robert Vachon, who has been directing the beautiful journal Interculture for over 40 years and who has devoted his life to intercultural dialogue and also to the dialogue between the native people in North America, especially the Mohawks, and the Canadian Quebecois nation-state. So here is what he tells us about the dialogue between different legal and political cultures. I wish to draw attention to the trap of words, of language, and of its presuppositions. Words like democracy, politics, government, nation, development, rights, chiefs, land claims, sovereignty, property, territory, borders, etc., all carry baggage from our Western political anthropology and anthropocentric cosmology, and are tied to notions that man is the center, that he must be the artisan of the world, the measure, and finally the master of all things. Notions of autonomy, of freedom defined as choice, notions that we need chiefs, governance, property, a state and a nation-state, a territory, notions of sovereignty and of majority rule, etc. All these are notions that we consider to be universal, but which are not. Even if every affirmation of a truth has a built-in claim to universality in its own context. The fact is, however, that 2/3 of the world population, native peoples included, do not think this way and do not define their dignity nor organize social order on the notions of rights, governments, chiefs, etc., even if they make use of these foreign words when speaking with us. We are so accustomed to discussing political questions within the relatively recent and in our eyes definitive framework of the modern nation-state that we become its prisoners. We become incapable of seeing not only alternatives to the nation-state, not only existing Western critiques and utopian programs, but living indigenous alternatives in the world at large. In other words, what I wish to emphasize here is that the so-called traditional native political culture is radically different not only from the modern model, which is the nation-state in its various forms, capitalistic, Marxist, socialist, but from Western political culture as a whole and from its deep presupposition. Moreover, I wish to underline that this traditional native culture is not a thing of the past, but very much alive today and quite as valid as our own Western political culture. I am using the word Western political culture in its deeper meaning and intentionality, as it runs through the last 6,000 years of its variegated pre-Christian, Christian and post-Christian historical expressions, and through its various Celtic, Greco-Roman, Mediterranean, European, Euro-American manifestations, and which can be distinguished, it seems to me, from traditional African, Asian and native Indian political cultures. I am aware that such an assumption would require a separate study and presentation which I cannot give here. I do not wish to define Western political culture univocally and thus reduce it to an abstract common denominator. I believe that every culture is rooted in a deep intentionality whose presuppositions and nature are revealed to us only in the meeting of radically different cultural myths. Myths that are ultimately the unspeakable and unspoken sources of all that is said about them, and which clothe themselves in the form of polyvalent, polysemic symbols or words, not in univocal terms. Both the Western and the Mohawk political cultures are pluralistic within their own respective worlds, as I shall explain in the subsequent chapters of this study. As I draw a contrast between the two, I do so without trying to compare what is existentially incomparable, and without, I hope, falling into categorization, stereotyping, or dualism. I hope that the contrast will be understood in a non-dualistic spirit, in the sense that, first, just as there is an East and a West, in each of us. There is a nature and culture, so there are elements of each kind of political culture in the other, with varying emphasis. Secondly, this need not be in conflict, even when they sometimes happen to be logically irreconcilable. Nature calls for opposites, and harmony does not always require the unity of a coherent principle. It does require dialogue, respect, and cosmic confidence. What we shall seek here is not harmony in spite of, but in and because of our differences. Harmony requires the creative tension of love, and love is not a simple sentiment, but a pillar of the universe. By drawing a parallel over against Mohawk Longhouse political culture, I do not intend to abstract from the more complex existential reality of present Mohawk political plurality and pluralism, as I have briefly described at the outset and will touch upon later. But I wish to show that the reading that is made of this existential complexity by traditional Mohawks can be quite different from our Western reading and from the Westernized reading typical of acculturated Mohawks. The fact that some may have freely chosen Western democracy need not be ultimate criterion of good Mohawk behavior. They may have to put up with the Longhouse Mohawks just as the latter have to put up with the former. My assumption is that the Mohawk matrix is a very deeply rooted one, and that it is capable of gearing in to many new situations without alienating or prostituting itself. That matrix may thus serve as a deep source of harmony in a pluralistic nation, at least as valid as the deep Western matrix of the will of the people. My assumption is that these are two existential realities, or rather crystallizations of reality, microcosms, which are irreducible to each other or to the common denominator of a single, rational, coherent, universal principle. This is not to say that each is meant to live in a ghetto, or that both are unable to share a common horizon and to live in a concord and harmony. My assumption is that neither truth, nor reality, nor human polity are monistic or dualistic, but intrinsically pluralistic. Robert Vachon likes to say very much that opening up to a different legal and political culture is crucifying, but liberating. So I hope these inspirations on pluralism on this Tuesday, 20th of December 2011, inspired you. Thank you.